So, we have already talked about clearing fractions from equations. We want to try and clear decimals, yes. So you can. You can, if you're looking at number 1 on this sheet. Is everybody looking? So, yes, my goal is still to get x by itself. I could add 0.5 over here and then divide by 0.8. That's a lot of work, though. I'm already annoyed. There's an easier way, because remember, dealing with decimals, there's all these annoying things you have to do and blah, 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 blah. How about, just like with fractions, if I have an equation, I had this cool thing to just eliminate all the fractions from my equation. If only there was such a thing I could do for decimals. By golly, there is. If I want to clear all the decimals out of an equation, I can do it. Does anybody know how? How can I make them all just disappear? Yeah. Basically, yeah. So here's what I need to do. This one has 2 decimal places. That one has 1. That one has 1. So I want to look at all my numbers and figure out the biggest number of decimal places I have, which in this case is 2. I want to move his decimal place over 2 spaces. If I move his over 2, I just have to move everybody's over 2. That's all. And then I don't have decimals anymore. It's so nice. So if I just move this one over 2, I'd get negative 674, right? Be careful here. If I move this one over 2, what's that really going to be? 50. And it's negative, right? So I'd have a negative 50. If you move it over once, that becomes the number 5. So if I move it over a second time, now I have the number 50. And then what would this thing be? 80x. Do you see how we did that? So you're just going to look at all your numbers before you start. Ask yourself, okay, what's the largest number of decimal places I have in any one of my numbers? And then just move everybody's decimal that same number. And now, it's an equation. Here's the downside. My numbers do get a little bit bigger, but at least there's no decimals and there's no fractions. So I can manage this. What would you do now? Add 50. Since these are opposite signs, what am I really doing? You're really subtracting. So that'd be 4 to 624. And it's positive or negative? Negative, right? Equals 80x. And then what would I do? Divide by 80. You got it. Can I reduce 624 over 80? Yeah, certainly by 2 at least, right? So I'm going to put it over here because I'm running out of room. Make sure your answer stays negative. If I divide by 2, that's 312 over 40. I can do it again, and I actually know that I can do it by 4 at least. So 312 divided by 4 is 78. Oh, I can go again. Oh my gosh. At least by 2, right? So that would be what, 36 over 5? Okay, finally. Phew. But that was a lot easier than me having to do it all in decimals. Because think about it, if you were doing it in decimals, you'd have to add 0.5. So now I have to do a subtraction with decimals. Then I'd have to take that answer and divide it by 0.8. So you'd have to do long division. You want to do long division? I don't. So this is a nice way to kind of avoid all that. Let's look at one like number, where's one that I want to go to? 8. So if I look at all my numbers, they all only have 1 decimal place, right? So this will be a nice, easy change. I just move the decimal 1 place for all of them. So now it's just 6 plus 45r equals negative 48. That's so much easier to deal with. So then what would you do? Yep, minus that 6. They are the same sign, so I'm really going to add them and keep it negative, right? So that would be a 54. And then I divide by 45. Ooh, I know a number that goes into both. Do you? What goes into 50? Yeah, 9. So if I divide both by 9, that gets me negative 6/5. That one wasn't so bad. Now, I want to back up and try well, I want to see what you do. Ready? Is everybody okay with this one? Look at number 3. How many spaces do you have to move the decimals? 1. Go ahead and do that. Let's see what you come up with. I'm wondering if you're going to fall into a trap that I've set. Are you stuck? Are you in my trap? What are those bear traps that get you on the ankle? Did I get you? I hope not. Alright, if I have to move it over 1 decimal place, Miss Avia, what's the big deal? It's just 19 equals negative 23 plus 3r, right? No! If you move the... Where's the decimal right now on the 3? Behind it. So if you move it over 1 place, this new number is now what? 30. 30. Look at your paper. If you just have 3r and not 30r, you messed up. But let that be the last time you make that mistake, because now you're going to remember, oh yes, every single number needs to get their decimal place moved, even if the decimal place isn't written, right? Because if it's a whole number, we normally don't write the decimal. But every number does have one, we just don't write it, usually. And now I can solve like normal. I would add 23 to both sides. So that's going to get me 42, you say? I believe you. Divide by 30. You can divide by 6. Yep, 7/5. Sounds good to me. So, clearing decimals, not so bad, right? You just got to make sure you're doing the same thing to all of them. So, let me have you try one more before we try a different style. How about 6? How many decimals do you need to move this one? 2, which means that my very first number is now what? Negative 500p, right? Plus 449 equals 1499. And then we're going to minus the 449. So what's that? 0.501. Divide by 500, divide by 500, negative 500, sorry. Yep, we can cross off the zeros right away. Now I have 105 over 50. 5 goes into both, right? 21 over 10.
Oh, wait, no, you're right.
That should be it. Okay. So, easy enough. If they're just decimals, just move them over. Oh, that is until you get to something like number 5. Now, this is, we're mixing them together now. Now you have decimals and fractions. Oh, boy. Would it be what? Well, the problem is now you really have 1/3 x. Here, you can't just, let's go back. I can't do the same thing with the decimals. I can't just move the decimal over one place. It's easy to do it here and here, but you don't just make this a denominator of 30. So you can't do that. Yeah.
No, because, like, there's another way you could, like, put over 99.
You could, so you could turn these back into fractions and then have everybody as a fraction and clear the fractions. It's possible. Unfortunately, there's not like one awesome way to handle it when they're kind of mixed together. In my opinion, if I had a problem like this, I'd probably multiply everything by, would I? Yeah, I'd probably multiply everything by 3 because it's not so bad, right, to multiply these by 3. Or, alternatively, maybe I could add the 3.3 to the other side first, and then there would only be one number that I'd have to multiply by 3. My point is, when you have a mix of decimals and fractions, there's not just one cool, nice trick that just makes it all better. I can do both tricks, but they're not as nice anymore. Like if I multiply everything by 3, that'll get rid of the fraction, but I am also dealing with multiplying decimals by 3. I mean, that's not so bad. But look at number 7, it's a little bit worse. Now I got to multiply 1.73 times 5. That's not something I'm doing in my head. So it's a little bit more cumbersome. It's not anything that we can't do, it's just more annoying. What I cannot do is I can't just clear the decimals in this one until I get rid of the fraction. I'd have to get rid of the fraction first. And then if I wanted to clear my decimals, I could. So let's try that. Let's multiply everything by 3. So this isn't so bad. 3.3 times 3 would get me 9.9. Yep, just keep it negative. 3 times x over 3, what does that get me?
1x.
Yeah, just x, right? Because remember, you're going to divide down, multiply up. And then I have to do 3 times negative 0.6, which is not so bad because 0.6 is just 60 cents, and 60 cents times 3 is just $1.80, right? Oh, did you say 0.18?
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I meant that.
You meant that, yes. Right? 60 cents 3 times gets me $1.80. And now I can clear the decimal. Ooh, actually, I'm very interested what you think that would be. So now here's an equation that's just decimals. I want to, move everybody's decimal one place. So what would that look like? Negative 99 plus x equals negative 18. Do we all agree? You should not be agreeing. Sorry. That is not what it would be. Yes. Right. Everybody's decimal needs to get moved. Remember, there's an invisible 1 right there. So if I move his decimal over 1, don't I get a 10? Yeah. Big difference. So we got to be careful. But now I have something that's normal and doable, and I can finish out from here. So we'll add the 99. So I really have to subtract 99 minus 18. 81 divided by 10. Whoa. All right.